Welcome to Faces of Carroll, 200 Years of Community. I'm CCS-TV's Elora Watkins, and with me today we have Carroll historian Barb Cessna. Barb, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much for coming.
Now, the year 2025 is a really big year for the town of Carroll, as it is their bicentennial anniversary, which means their 200 years of being a town. And what does that mean to you as we are here in the Maple Grove Cemetery to see some of the key figures?
Well, it means a lot. 200 years is an amazing amount of time. And then Carroll, people were here. It wasn't named Carroll, but people were here from 1809 on. We had some settlers that came here before and didn't stay, because we had such a huge, giant white pine forest here that you had to have a lot of handy workers with you in order to clear any land and article it. So a lot of people just went right by. But in 1809, we finally had some that stayed, and the Frews came first. The Fentons came shortly after, and they really were interested in making a community here and being together, and they helped each other. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the only way they got through all of those trees. There's also an important section here that I wanted to visit with you today. It's now it's called 2A. Back in the day, these people were buried in the Frewsburg burying ground, and it's the furthest away from the road. It's the creek side of the cemetery, and that would be the Frew Run that's down there. And so our oldest settlers are buried in that section, and I'd like to see it named something other than 2A.
Yes.
It's not very respectful. But we also, in the cemetery, there are so many people buried here, and we have, a Supreme Court justice, mm-hmm. and we have a NASCAR driver, and our only World War I soldier who passed away during the war was killed in action, and our American Legion is named after him, Samuel Derby, and so we're going to visit those graves too, because they're important. Yeah. And a lot of people come to see those graves.
Of course. Tag along with us as we explore the Faces of Carroll, 200 Years of Community.
Welcome to the Chautauqua Sports Hall of Fame, located at 15 West 3rd Street in Jamestown. Visitors will see photographs, awards, apparel, and other sports memorabilia. We invite all visitors to stop in the Chautauqua Sports Hall of Fame and learn about the sports history of Chautauqua County.
Market value pricing means you save more at Schultz Auto Group. Search for your next vehicle in person or online within our dealer network, now with an even greater selection of EVs. MVP means you'll get the best deals within our market. Schultz brings the showroom to you with optional personalized virtual walk-around, remote financing, DMV services, and home delivery. 50 years experience with modern customer care. That's why we say you can't beat a Schultz deal.
On my drive-in today, I noticed many different flags all around the county to honor the different veterans of the area. And here in the Maple Grove Cemetery, there are also many flags around to honor the brave men and women who fought for our nation. What does veterans and that whole idea of fighting for our nation mean to this community?
Well, it means a lot, and the people who are descended from those original families really, you know, some of them have a Revolutionary War, War of 1812, Civil War. In fact, there are 16 War of 1812 veterans buried just in this cemetery. We have 22 altogether so far. Because when you see a cemetery stone that says 1780s or 1790 being born, that's my clue that I need to start investigating who they were.
Yeah.
But we have a huge, really, Western New York has a huge population of veterans. And I think it's because their Revolutionary War ancestors came for land in Western New York.
Yes.
And, you know, there were a lot of 1812 men here, but they were not fighting here, and they did not live here. They came here after the War of 1812.
Yeah.
So, but we have a huge history of veterans, military history in this town, especially than the Civil War. And you'll see on this monument that there are 41 Civil War soldiers who died. This is our monument for fallen soldiers for the Town of Carroll. And there were 41 Civil War soldiers who died.
Wow. So this tombstone that we are looking at right now is in place for a very special man to the Carroll area named Charles E. Hill. And can you tell us a little bit about this monument for him?
Well, this monument is like my very favorite monument because it's in the shape of a tree. The family members who are buried here are listed on a scroll that comes down over the front. There are ferns around the base of it, and it looks like a tree that was cut down. It's got a chain wrapped around it, which leads me to think that he, at one point, might have been a logger. And he was a Civil War soldier, Charles was, in the 112th Company A. And he was 71 when he died. But so many of his GAR members with him, they all came, every single member of that group. And the widows of the company that he belonged to came as well. And there was his captain came to his funeral. So I thought that was pretty impressive. He must have been a very nice man.
Yeah, yeah.
But usually when you see a stone that's in the shape of a tree, and sometimes they're tall, sometimes it's a log that lays on the ground and it looks like a log, you would swear it was a log, but it's really made out of stone. And they made them look that way. And there was an organization that did that, and they were called Woodmen of the World. And I was sure he must have been a Woodman of the World, but I've looked him up endlessly, and I can't find that in his history, so I guess not. But he deserved whatever he wanted, and I think he wanted that.
Yeah.
At Southern Chautauqua Federal Credit Union, we believe in supporting our community and helping you achieve your financial goals and strive to make a positive impact for our members and the community. Our mission is to empower individuals with the skills and resources necessary to achieve financial freedom. As our members and the community achieve their goals, we fulfill ours, creating a brighter future together. Southern Chautauqua Federal Credit Union, your partner in financial well-being.
We get how uncertain the future is. We've come of age in a complex world, face to face with problems we didn't create. So what's going to happen next? We are. Because our future is the future. So we're going to build bridges and hospitals in a day and feed those left in the cold. We're going to do all this and more because we have an appointment with destiny.
Quite possibly one of the most notable names in this cemetery is James Frew, who is the namesake of this town, which means there's a lot of history that goes into his story in this area.
You're right. But he shares the name Frewsburg with his brother, John Frew.
Yes.
And they came here together. And somewhere along the way they had time between 1809 and when they came here, or when they came here in 1809, and they worked in the War of 1812, because they were both involved in that. But the Frew family was our first family who came and stayed.
Yeah.
And John his brother was the more social one. James was a little more shy, but they were adamant about building a community here. And their home also still stands on Main Street, and there's a historic marker in front of that. And they, at one point in the 1800s, there were 5 generations of Frews living in that house.
Wow.
So that would be
Impressive.
why there's a lot of additions on it.
Yeah.
But they convinced their parents, Hugh and Mary, to come here. They lived in Pennsylvania around where Eisenhower School is. And he had a mill, a grist mill. And so after they got settled, they brought their parents here. And that house, the Frew house on Main Street, it was really built about 1820 or 1822. It's not as old as when they first came, you know.
Yeah.
But that's when their parents came. And
yeah.
so Mary Frew, even though she died in 1865, she was 103 years old when she died.
Wow.
And I think she's the oldest person in this cemetery, and maybe all of Carroll to have died. But she had a long life.
Yeah.
But they came from Ireland. They sailed from Belfast and came here. They sailed in 1794.
Wow.
So, but they were in Pennsylvania for a while before they stretched out and came up into this part of New York.
Yes.
So that's our Frew family, you know, really is we feel our founders.
Your founders.
And when we became officially a town in 1825, and Frewsburg was officially named Frewsburg, it was in honor of John and James.
Wow.
And their commitment
To this area.
to this community.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, are there any descendants of the Frew family left?
Yes, there are. So we still have Frew family in Frewsburg, and there's some Frews that moved into Jamestown. They still come back and visit. They're still welcome here. And then another part of the family moved to California, and that Josiah's family moved to California, and they still live there. But the lady there is the historian for the Frew family. She did tons of work and shared that history with us. That history is at the Carroll Historical Society, if anybody needs to know. And but in 2014, they brought 17 people with them, and they retraced the route from where the original Frews came into Delaware and then in through Pennsylvania, all the way through Pennsylvania, and they stayed in Pennsylvania for a while, and then they came up to Western New York, where we are. And so it was a wonderful thing for them to retrace that whole route.
Yeah.
And they learned a lot. They all, I think they all got closer to enjoying genealogy, because I think some of them, when they started out, were thinking, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But they all had such a good time. By the time they got here, this was the end of the route, and they were a big hit at the Carroll Historical Society.
Yeah. A familiar face that you will not see in this cemetery is Governor Reuben Fenton.
Well, no, because when Reuben Fenton still lived in Frewsburg, he had not become governor yet. He became governor in the election of November 1864, but he had already left, and they started building the Fenton home, which they called Walnut Grove because there were a lot of walnut trees there, and they started that in 1863 and didn't really finish it until part of 1865.
Okay.
But so in this cemetery, though, his brother George W. Fenton, named after their father, and Thomas J. Fenton is his brother.
Yes.
And this is Thomas's family here.
Okay.
And there's the home that Reuben Fenton lived in when he was here is still standing on Main Street. There's a historic marker in front.
Nice.
So it's on the corner of Main and Pearl.
Perfect.
And we love it.
Yeah.
So.
One of the more now notable names buried in the Maple Grove Cemetery is Samuel L. Derby, who was the only World War I soldier who died in combat from Carroll.
That's true. And so we actually had quite a few World War I soldiers from Carroll, and they were all friends, but he's the only one who died in battle. And he enlisted April 1st, 1918, and he died October 17th, so it wasn't even very long.
No.
So, and the Battle of Argonne, which was a bad one. So it is sad. There is a historic marker at his home on Institute Street.
Perfect.
And all of his buddies, when he came home on the train in his casket in 1921, it was his birthday, actually.
Oh.
And they met him at the train station, which is just a little dinky thing on Railroad Avenue. Can you believe it? But he came in on the train. There was a soldier who came with his casket, and all of his friends met him there, and they carried his casket up the main street. So I can't imagine there would be a lot of tears flowing that day.
Yeah. And you mentioned there isn't too much to be known of him prior to his death because he was so young, correct?
He was. But he was a little bit older than some of them. He was 27.
Okay.
And he'd been working at the Frewsburg Furniture Company on Institute Street, so that was handy. He could leave, almost be late for work and get there on time.
Yeah.
And they were all friends, and so when they came home, at the end of the war, they started the plans for an American Legion, like all of the World War I soldiers that were coming home at that time. They were making plans for legions and VFWs, and they decided that would bear his name in honor of him.
As a memorial, yes.
Right,
Yeah.
but he was just an everyday young man when he left.
Yeah.
So he's kind of famous now, but it would be nice if we didn't have to honor him for his death.
Yes, of course.
but his life.
Yes, yes.
So all of his friends remember his life.
And the legacy that he left behind.
Exactly.
Looking to feed the family, the whole team, or just your own hungry self? Honest John's has you covered. We're talking fresh-made subs, crispy wings, and pizza so good you might just start happy dancing. Trust Honest John's for takeout, delivery, and easy online ordering so you can get the goods without lifting more than a finger. Or stop in for our famous all-you-can-eat pizza buffet. From crispy wings to cheesy pies, Honest John's satisfies. Order now at honestjohns.pizza.
I think that it's important to know what the kids are thinking about the community and what they can do for it, and get their point of view from it, especially the kids, because they're the future generations.
You get to do like fun TikToks and other like fun interactive stuff. There's a lot more behind the scenes to this club than just sitting and interviewing. It's a good opportunity, so try it out.
A key figure to Carroll history, U.S. history, and world history is Robert H. Jackson.
Yes, but in Frewsburg, Robert H. Jackson was the guy next door. He was Bob Jackson. So he was born in 1892 in Spring Creek, Pennsylvania, and his family came here when he was 5 years old. His grandparents were here as well, came with them, and his father, William Jackson, bought a hotel right in the middle of town. And then, in a few years they moved to the house over by the corner scoop on Hazard Street. And and he lived there when he was, older. But he was very well liked in town. He was an excellent student in school, and actually when he graduated, he did a year of finishing school in Jamestown. People liked him very well. He came back after he became a lawyer, and then he got involved, with politics and was not here as much. He would still come back to see his family.
Of course.
And he loved his family here, and he would come back often and then see his friends, and they would all enjoy him, when he was here.
So not only did Justice Jackson leave such a great legacy for our nation, but he also left a great legacy to his own community here in Carroll, which is really cool. And this isn't the only memorial for him, correct?
It isn't the only memorial. After he passed away, the RHJ Elementary School was named after him. Robert H. Jackson, we always call it RHJ.
Yes.
And the airport, there's the airport building and runway that are named after him.
Yeah.
And there's a courthouse in Buffalo that's named after him.
Yes.
And I just want to say that I think it's so cool that when he died in 1954, he was only 62 years old, but he was a Supreme Court justice at that point. It was, they had gotten through Nuremberg trials fine. That all ended well. And but he was a Supreme Court justice still. And when he died of a fatal heart attack, all of the other justices came to his funeral. Wow. So the funeral was held at St. Luke's in Jamestown. Wow. And then they all came here for the burial. And I'm impressed by that.
Yeah.
In this day and age, they'd all have to have security and everything. Pretty sure they didn't do that then, but.
And he wanted to be buried here.
Yes, he wanted to come back home.
Yes.
So I'm glad. He could have been buried anywhere.
But
they could have put him
home.
anywhere.
Yeah.
And but Frewsburg was considered home.
Yeah.
So he was Bob here.
Yeah. The last stop on our tour and the most recent face is Lloyd Moore, who had a pretty interesting occupation.
He did have an interesting occupation, and the checkered flag might give it away. But when he died in 2008, he was known as the oldest NASCAR driver. But he started when he was young, not at NASCAR, but he was driving jalopies, they called them, and they would make them out of old cars and stuff and go to tracks. So he would go to Pennyroyal a lot. That sticks in his mind. But there were various tracks that they usually did in the summertime as they were racing. And so, but it was between 1949 and 1955 when he and his driving mate, Bill Rexford, and they got together actually because they started driving for Busink in Finley Lake, and they went to all the tracks and stuff at that point. But so that was after jalopies.
Yeah.
But his NASCAR life was something that he enjoyed very much, and then his wife said, "It's time to stay at home and be a father now." And he became a bus driver.
Wow.
For Frewsburg School, and he was so well loved,
Yeah.
very loved. Everybody loved him.
Yeah.
I'm sure especially the boys, because they would get to hear the stories about racing. He actually was good friends with Richard Petty and a lot of the other older drivers, and he received recognition at the Sports Hall of Fame in Jamestown.
Wow.
He's well loved here in Frewsburg, had a big family,
Yeah.
and in honor of his NASCAR days, the driveway, the back way from the Falconer Street up to the bus garage is named Lloyd Moore Drive, just as a memorial to him, a little salute.
Yes. What a cool legacy.
Yeah, it is.
This concludes our look back at the faces of Carroll that have shaped the 200-year history. Thank you, Barb Cessna.
Thank you for coming and listening to the history here that we have in the cemetery. I just want to mention that we have our bicentennial for Carroll between June 19th and June 22nd, and there'll be all sorts of things going on. And we'll have our history in the Carroll Historical Society right behind Town Hall is where we're located, and so join us anytime.
For more history, of course. This has been Faces of Carroll, 200 Years of Community. I'm Elora Watkins, CCS-TV.
Experience the difference buying your next pre-owned ride at Schultz. Certified technicians ensure our inventory gets up-to-date maintenance. Most purchases include a limited lifetime engine warranty and more. That's why we say you can't beat a Schultz deal.
At Wegmans, we've packed our fresh and delicious salads with incredible flavor. Each one is made with our very best ingredients, like fresh greens, imported cheeses, and our signature dressings. We've packed big, delicious flavor into every bite for salads that are endlessly good.
What's life like in Chautauqua County? It's where small-town charm meets world-class culture, where your downtime gets an upgrade across miles of lakes, state parks, and vibrant local vineyards, where you can live the high life at a low cost as your dollars go further and your roots grow deeper. Whether you're building a business or advancing your career, settling down or settling up, choose Chautauqua County, where every step you take is toward the life you love. Start your next chapter at livechq.org.
To enlist into the National Guard, you first have to contact a recruiter. So either calling up your local office or going online and finding who your nearest recruiter is. So you talk to the recruiter. Once you speak to them and you schedule an appointment, you come in. Don't be afraid to come into our office. Coming in does not make you have to join. It's just answering any questions that you might have and seeing how we can help you get there.
Welcome to the Chautauqua Sports Hall of Fame, located at 15 West 3rd Street in Jamestown. Visitors will see photographs, awards, apparel, and other sports memorabilia. We invite all visitors to stop in the Chautauqua Sports Hall of Fame and learn about the sports history of Chautauqua County.
At Southern Chautauqua Federal Credit Union, we believe in supporting our community and helping you achieve your financial goals and strive to make a positive impact for our members and the community. Our mission is to empower individuals with the skills and resources necessary to achieve financial freedom. As our members and the community achieve their goals, we fulfill ours, creating a brighter future together. Southern Chautauqua Federal Credit Union, your partner in financial well-being.
This
This is CCS-TV, empowering voices, inspiring futures.